Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 24 How to Make a Bad Guy 1. Li Shuang, covered with gauze, lay pale on the hospital bed. Feeling as if his heart had been ripped open, Xie Wendong's eyes were red and he stared back at the nurse who grabbed his clothes. The nurse was so frightened by Xie Wendong's eyes that she stayed where she was and let go of her hand. Xie Wendong came to the hospital bed in 3 and 2 steps, grabbed Li Shuang's hand and quietly called his name, Xiao Shuang, Xiao Shuang. Li Shuang felt someone, slowly opened his eyes, stared straight ahead, and moved forward blankly with a dripping hand. Are you Brother Dong? Xie Wendong looked at Li Shuang in surprise and shook his hand in front of his eyes. Li Shuang's eyes did not blink, without a trace of reflection. Is Xiao Shuang blind? Xie Wendong shouted in his heart. Tears could no longer be held back, dripping on the white sheets. Li Shuang waved his hand in the air and said weakly, Is it Brother Dong? Is it really Brother Dong? Xie Wendong grabbed Li Shuang's hand, put it on his face and said, It's me, Xiao Shuang. I've come to see you. Brother Dong, you're back. Great. I was worried about what happened in the club. Don't think about it. It's all right. Li Shuang squeezed out a smile and said, Brother Dong, I thought I would never see you again. I'm so glad to see you here. Brother Dong, why is your face wet? Are you crying? I'm fine. Don't be sad for me. Lying in bed, I don't know why, as soon as I close my eyes, I think of the days when I was with you. This period of time is my happiest, happy from the heart out. I really miss Changzi. I don't know why he didn't come. Brother Dong, isn't the world much quieter without me by your side? Xie Wendong did not speak and listened quietly to every word Li Shuang said. The pain in his heart could not be expressed in words. He wished it was himself lying on the bed, not Li Shuang. The scene of the past and Li Shuang surfaced in front of our eyes. Does that little fat man who laughs around him all day really want to leave him? Xie Wendong cannot accept it, nor will he accept it. Holding Li Shuang's hand, Xie Wendong said softly, Xiao Shuang, you will be all right. You're going to fight the world with me in the future. This is what you said. Men will keep their promises. I thought you said you listened to me the most, and I ordered you not to leave me. Li Shuang wanted to smile at Xie Wendong, but he didn't have the strength and felt so tired that he slowly closed his eyes and a tear came out of the corner of his eyes. Xie Wendong didn't release Li Shuang's hand, but just sat there quietly. Boredom sees hesitation. It is not easy to achieve the ideal. Even if there is confidence, the fighting spirit is restrained. Who decides me to go and stay, determine the universe in my heart. Xie Wendong hummed Beyond's No Hesitation softly. This is a favorite song of Li Shuang and Xie Wendong, Gao Chang and others. Xie Wendong sang very slowly and softly. After singing for many times, the nurse at the door came in and came to Xie Wendong and whispered, Your friend is asleep. Don't disturb him anymore. Let him have a good rest. I'm sure he'll be all right. Seeing what happened just now, the nurse was moved by the friendship between Xie Wendong and Li Shuang, and her attitude towards Xie Wendong was much better than before. The nurse's voice awakened Xie Wendong, who was addicted to memories, and found that his clothes were wet with tears. Xie Wendong smiled at the nurse, stood up and said, I apologize to you for what happened just now. Can you tell me what happened to my friend's eyes? The nurse said, That's because of the sequelae of excessive blood loss. It will be all right after a while. Xie Wendong breathed a sigh of relief and said thank you to the nurse. After taking a deep look at Li Shuang on the bed, he turned around and walked out of the ward. Looking at Xie Wendong's back, the nurse added in her heart that if he could still be alive after a while. But she didn't say this to Xie Wendong. See Xie Wendong's appearance? Do not want to add more burden to him. Walking on the busy street, Li Shuang's pale face appeared in front of Xie Wendong from time to time, and for the first time he doubted the path he had taken. No matter how smooth the road is, it is also a black road that can never be seen. Today lying in the hospital bed is Li Shuang, tomorrow it may be Three Eyes is Gao Chang, maybe it is himself. There is no guarantee of life on this road. Is it really necessary for your brothers to risk their lives for their own ideals? Xie Wendong doesn't know, and no one will teach him. I have no choice but to go my own way. Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 25 _ How the Villain is Made. Xie Wendong returned to the ghost house and saw that everyone was there, and hundreds of people were in a bit of a stir. Xie Wendong came to the court and shouted, "Everybody go back and have a rest. There is nothing to do today." Hearing what Xie Wendong said, they hesitated for a moment, and then went out. Zhang Yanjiang and He Haoran did not leave. Zhang Yanjiang came to Xie Wendong and said, "Brother Dong, how is Brother Shuang now?" Xie Wendong shook his head and said, "Not so good. I didn't get through the crisis." Zhang Yanjiang bowed his head and said, "Brother Dong, I have thought about what you said. I suspect that a person may be a mole." Xie Wendong picked his eyebrows and said, "Who?" Zhang Yanjiang looked around and made sure that there was no one else and whispered, "Sister Shui, why do you say that?" "Brother Dong, I thought about it from beginning to end. It is time for the brothers in the club to unite. They will not betray the club, and to put it bluntly, they will not have a chance to do so. Because everyone was together at that time, and no one ever left. Then the most likely one is Sister Shui. After we left the ghost, she had time to tip off the sickle gang. But I don't know why she did it." After listening carefully to what he said, Xie Wendong felt very reasonable. Nod and say, "Don't say anything until you have solid evidence. By the way, where's Brother Zhang?" Zhang Yanjiang said, "I went out to get the money and ask for information." Xie Wendong said, walked into a single room and lay on the sofa, closing his eyes and thinking about what he should do next. Zhang Yanjiang and Zhang Yanjiang did not disturb Xie Wendong, but stood outside quietly waiting. In the evening, Three Eyes came back with a paper pocket and saw that Zhang Yanjiang and He Haoran were still there and asked, "Is Brother Dong back yet?" He Haoran nodded, pointed to the single room and said, "It's back. It's inside." Three Eyes went over and knocked on the door. "Come in." Xie Wendong's voice came out of it. Three Eyes listen, push the door and go in. "Brother Dong, everything you asked me to do has been done. This is $100,000. With these words, the Three Eyes put the paper bag on the table, then took out a note from his coat pocket and said, "This is the address of the city director's home." Xie Wendong looked at his watch. It was almost 7 o'clock in the evening. He stood up, picked up the money and the note and said to the Three Eyes, "I'll go to the director's house and find a way to release Changzi and his 10 brothers first. You and your brothers all stay honest. Without me, no one is going to get into trouble with the sickle gang." After listening 3 times, he nodded and said yes, and then said to Xie Wendong, "Brother Dong, I'll go with you." Xie Wendong shook his head and said, "No, it's not good for you to go. Besides, it is even more useless to have too many people." With that, Xie Wendong went out and followed the steps he had just thought. Sooner or later, the people of the sickle gang would use blood to repay their mistakes. According to the address on the note, Xie Wendong soon found the residential area of the director's house. It is known as the Director Building in J City. The people who live there are either city leaders or rich tycoons. Xie Wendong came to the door of the director's house and rang the doorbell. There was a woman's voice inside. "Who is it?" Xie Wendong tried to keep his voice down and said, "Hello? I'm looking for Director Chun." The voice inside asked, "What do you want with him?" "I have something I need Director Chun to deal with. It's urgent." Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 25 _ How the Villain is Made. The woman inside knew what he meant as soon as she heard it, and 9 times out of 10 she came to give gifts, which happens every day. Without asking any more questions, he opened the door and said, "Then please come in." Xie Wendong looked at the woman who opened the door. She was about 40 years old and dressed beautifully. Xie Wendong nodded politely and said, "Hello, Auntie." The woman did not expect that the comber would be so young and handsome. She froze for a moment. Seeing that Xie Wendong was very clever, she smiled and said, "Come on in, young man. Don't stand outside." Xie Wendong took off his shoes and walked into the square hall. There was no one in the square hall. He asked, "Auntie, isn't Director Chun at home?" The woman said, "At home, he's in the bathroom. He'll be out in a minute." Sit here and wait. Xia Wendong said thank you for sitting on the sofa. The woman poured a cup of tea for Xia Wendong and put it on the coffee table. After a while, a middle-aged man in his 40s, with thin hair but a bit of spirit, came out of the bathroom. When he saw Xia Wendong, he turned around and asked the woman, Xiao Hui, he is… No, no, no. No, no, no? The woman smiled and said, It's for you. He's not old, so you can help him if you can. The woman obviously had a good first impression of Xia Wendong and spoke for him. Director Chun, sat opposite Xia Wendong and asked, Young man, if you have anything to do with me, tell me about it. Xia Wendong hesitated for a moment, but his eyes drifted past the woman and did not speak. Director Chun, a reasonable man, said to the woman, Xiao Hui, go and watch TV in the house. I'll talk to this guy about something. The woman was not very happy, but she went back to the house and closed the door. When Director Chun saw his wife leaving, he leaned against the sofa and said, Now just say what you have to say. Xia Wendong didn't want to talk nonsense and said bluntly, Chunju must have known about the firefight that took place in the 8 Gods last night. Director Chun froze slightly and asked, Is that why you're here? Xia Wendong nodded and said, I hope Chunju can release all the people arrested by the 8 Gods and convict them. Director Chen's face darkened and said, I think you overestimate my ability. I'm sorry, I can't help you with this. Xia Wendong said, I know you can, or I will go to find someone else. With that, Xia Wendong took out a paper pocket from his arms and poured all the money on the coffee table. Director Chun was startled and did not expect that such a young man would bring so much money. Director Chen's eyes lit up and stared at the pile of $100 bills on the coffee table. But thinking about the situation in the bureau and the impact of the 8 Gods incident, greed took it back, looked at Xia Wendong and shook his head and said, Sorry, I really can't help you with this. Please go back. With that, Director Chun stood up and prepared to go back to the house. Is there no room for maneuver? I really can't help you with this. Besides, it's still during the crackdown, and your friend dares to go against the wind. It's his bad luck. Xia Wendong looked cold and asked, How many years will my friend be in prison? Director Chin thought for a moment and said, To tell you the truth, your friend has no chance of going to prison. If you are right, you will be sentenced to death. Xia Wendong was surprised and said, This is impossible. Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 25 _ How the Villain is Made. It's just a fight. How can you be sentenced to death? Director Chan sighed and said, Not only fights, your friends also have robbery, serious injury, and other charges. Even in normal times, they will be sentenced to an indefinite period, not to mention that it is during the crackdown period. You don't understand what's going on here. Xia Wendong rubbed his temples and said, I don't understand, so I asked you to help me. I hope I can see my friend come back safely tomorrow. Director Chun was a little unhappy at Xia Wendong's words and said, I told you, I can't help you with this. Take your money and go. Xia Wendong did not move, sneered and said, Now Director Chun, you have not given me a satisfactory answer. If you say a word, I will give you all the money you have promised, and you will benefit from it in the future. If you do not agree, also easy, I will feel that you look down on me. I immediately take this 100,000 fast money to go out to find the killer to do you. It's up to you. By the way, don't take my words as a joke. I never joke with people who are not my friends. With that, Xia Wendong stared at Director Shin with a cold light in his eyes. He's not trying to scare me. Director Chin trembled and looked at Xia Wendong, feeling that it was not a look that human beings could send out. Director Chin was really a little scared. He sat back and said, This is really difficult for me. I have the municipal party committee above me and several deputy bureaus watching below. Alas, Xia Wendong said with a straight face, Whether it is difficult or not is your business. I don't care about these. I just want to see my brother come back tomorrow. Director Chan did not speak, took a cigarette out of his pocket and began to smoke in silence. After thinking about it, I hesitated. Xia Wendong did not urge him to sit on the sofa and wait for Director Chun to make a decision. Time went by minute, and there was no sound in the square hall. Director Chun smoked 5 cigarettes in a row, and after pinching out the last cigarette, he made up his mind and looked at Xie Wendong and said, "You go! I'll take the money." With that, he closed his eyes on the sofa and stopped talking. Xie Wendong said thank you, said nothing more, and then turned away. After walking out of Director Chen's house, Xie Wendong breathed a sigh of breath, and his back was drenched with sweat. As a matter of fact, he is not sure that the secretary will agree. Things are going well, the mood is also relaxed a lot, knowing that Gao Chang should be all right. I silently prayed that Li Shuang could survive this hurdle safely. Xie Wendong drove back to Ghost Gue and felt dizzy in the car. He felt very tired and wanted to sleep, but there was no way to rest. Now there are too many things to solve on his own. After returning to the Ghost, the 3 eyes immediately ran over and asked, "How is Changzi?" There was a sense of guilt in the 3rd eye that if he hadn't been reckless, Li Shuang and Gao Chang and dozens of brothers would have been fine after listening to Zhang Yanjiang at that time. Xie Wendong suppressed the feeling of dizziness and whispered, "Don't worry, Changzi is all right." Seeing Xie Wendong looking ugly, he hurriedly asked, "Brother Dong, are you all right? Your body." Xie Wendong interrupted him and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm fine." 3 eyes or worried looked at Xie Wendong. The latter said, "Brother Zhang, these days will be very busy. It seems that there are a lot of things to ask you." Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 25 _ How the Villain is Made. 3 eyes said, "Brother Dong, depending on what you say, this is what I should do." "What does Brother Dong want me to do?" Xie Wendong pondered for a moment and said, "First, you go and buy me a mobile phone tomorrow." Paused for a moment. "I'll tell you what, buy more, and the main staff of the meeting will each have one, so that it's convenient for everyone to get in touch with each other. Second, Ma Wu has agreed that the goods will be delivered in a few days. I intend to ask him to deliver the goods to number 1 middle school, which is the school, and the general police will not suspect it." With that, Xie Wendong turned to He Haoran and said, "Hao Ran, this belongs to you. When the goods arrive, you command the brothers of number 1 middle school to pick up the goods." He Haoran nodded and said yes. Xie Wendong paused. The cold light shot out of his eyes, and then said, "Third, find out everything about the Sickle Gang. Who is the boss? How many people are there? How many nests are there? What is the time of general activities? Come back and tell me clearly, Brother Zhang. I'll leave it to you. I want them to pay twice as much for their mistakes. We should also show the gangs around us what will happen to us." After listening to Xie Wendong's words, the confidence came back slowly and shouted, "Brother Dong, don't worry. Leave this to me." Xie Wendong nodded and said, "Isn't Sister Shui here today?" 3 eyes shook his head, wondering why Xie Wendong mentioned Sister Shui. When Xie Wendong came back from the hospital to talk to Zhang Yanjiang, he was not there. He did not know that Xie Wendong and others had already suspected that he had been on the water sister. Looking at the puzzled eyes of 3 eyes, Zhang Yanjiang explained, "Brother 3 eyes, we suspect that Sister Shui is the one who betrayed us." The 3 eyes thought thoughtfully but still did not think clearly why. Xie Wendong smiled and said, "You can't let others know, or it won't be easy to spread it to Sister Shui." 3 eyes listened and nodded. Xie Wendong said, "Well, everyone has been tired all day. Go home and have a good rest. If there is no accident tomorrow, Changzi will be back." 3 eyes and 3 faces are the same joy. Xie Wendong said goodbye to the 3 and took the bus home. When he got to the door of the house, he was just about to open the door and enter the house. He slapped his head and said secretly, "How can I forget her?" Xie Wendong wanted to bring back a mouthful of people from Ma Wu himself. There were so many things today that he forgot about the little girl. Shaking his head, Xie Wendong looked at the door and sighed. Come out of the hole of the building and take a bus to Xinshin. There are still a few brothers in Xinshin Billiards Hall, but they didn't go home. Xie Wendong walked in and asked, "How's the little girl I brought?" A brother said, "It's fine, Brother Dong. Soon after you left, she began to sleep and has been sleeping until now." Xie Wendong graciously went to the inner room, gently pushed the door open, and saw that the little girl was still sleeping. With a smile, Xia Wendong thought to himself that he was such a child that he could fall asleep in a strange place. Xia Wendong went to bed and bowed his head and thought, I can't leave the little girl in Xinshin, but where should I take her to sleep at night? Take her back to her own home. Xia Wendong gently pushed her. Get up! Get up! I would like to say a few digressions here and talk about the strike hard. What is a crackdown? Is to crack down on criminal activities. During the strike hard period, criminals will increase their sentencing. For example, when the strike was carried out throughout the country, the province issued a target to J City. During this hard strike, J City must crack 100 major cases and shoot 100 people. And all the public security officers in J City went out and did their best to catch only 99 such criminals. What if the municipal bureau fails to achieve the goal set by the province? Easy. Save an indicator from criminals who have been sentenced to life. The family has neither money nor access, so if you have okay, you will put him on top. It happened to be 100, and the city bureau also achieved the goal set from the province. Let's take it as a joke. I'm just talking about a region, not the whole country. This is the end of the nonsense. Finally, it is an old saying. I hope you will continue to support it. Sweat, the last sentence seems to have been said by many people. I can't help it. I'm a layman. Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 26 _ How the Villain is Made. The little girl slept soundly and lost her heart all day long when she fell into Ma Wu's hands, and she couldn't sleep well at night. But after being brought here by Xia Wendong, I don't know why, I feel that this young man who is not a few years older than himself will not harm himself. The mood relaxed. Several days of fatigue also swept along with the sweep. Unwittingly fell asleep. The little girl slept comfortably and felt at home. Suddenly someone pushed her, and the sleepy little girl thought her father was waking her up, covered her head, and murmured, Dad, let me sleep a little longer. Xia Wendong can't laugh or cry when he hears this. He won't be so old. The little girl is sleepy. It seems that she won't get up until she is pulled up. Thinking, Xia Wendong grabbed the little girl's quilt and opened it. The next thing Xia Wendong was silly. It turned out that the little girl took off her dirty clothes when she slept with money and only wore lingerie. Looking at the little girl's half-naked body, Xia Wendong blushed no longer. Damn it! As soon as he closed his eyes, he put the quilt over the little girl again. How dare a girl take off her clothes and sleep when she is led to a strange place by a stranger? I don't know how to protect myself. Xia Wendong raised a nameless anger in his heart and shouted, Get up! The sound was so loud that the brothers outside the door trembled, looked at each other and shook their heads secretly. The girl was the first to bear the brunt, being shocked to jump out of bed. Standing on the bed and looking around, finally his eyes fell on Xia Wendong's face and asked, The ground. No, no, no. No, no, no. Is there an earthquake? Xia Wendong did not respond, but just stared at the girl with fire-breathing eyes. The girl didn't know the danger. Xia Wendong, who was standing there, asked, What's the matter with you? Are you scared? Xia Wendong sighed secretly. The little girl was simply testing her patience and said loudly, If you don't put your clothes on, I will spank you. This sentence woke the little girl up and looked down. She only stood on the bed in her underwear. Then she shouted and hid under the quilt. Seeing her like this, Xia Wendong shook his head and said, You have 5 minutes to get dressed, or I'll come in and help you wear it. With that, he strode out of the inner room. When Xia Wendong came out, he closed the door and leaned against the wall to breathe. My face was still hot. I went to the water pipe to wash my face and felt ashamed of what I thought just now. After waiting for a while, the little girl came out of the inner room with her head down and put on her dirty skirt. Xia Wendong looked at the girl's thin body and said softly, Are you hungry? I'll take you something to eat. The little girl did not speak, but nodded, still ashamed of what had just happened. The boy looked almost naked before him, and his face became ruddy. Although she is not old, she knows no less about things between men and women than Xia Wendong. Xia Wendong led the girl to a KFC fast food restaurant in the city center and ordered 2 drumsticks and a glass of Coke for her. He was depressed because of Li Shuang and just ate some sign notes. Watching the girl wolfing down, Xie Wendong hated Ma Wu all the more and said to the girl, "Where's your home? I'll ask you to take you home tomorrow." Sister-in-law. Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 26 _ How the Villain is Made. The mother put down the drumstick in her hand in surprise, looked at Xie Wendong hesitantly and said, "You... No, no, no. No, no, no. Do you really have to let me go?" Xie Wendong joked, "I'm afraid I can't afford it if you can eat so much. Let's send you home early, or you'll make me poor." The little girl's eyes turned red, tears slipped down her cheeks, took Xie Wendong's hand and said, "Thank you, big brother. You are a good man." As he spoke, he burst into tears and vented the grievances he had suffered in the past few days. She felt that the boy in front of her felt like a relative, and she had a sense of intimacy and sense of security with him. Looking at the surprised eyes of the people around him, Xie Wendong patted the girl's hand and said at a loss, "Don't cry. You won't be beautiful if you cry again. Look at so many people looking at you." The little girl looked up and looked around. Sure enough, all the people in the fast food restaurant were looking at her. A little embarrassed, the little girl put her little head in Xie Wendong's arms and dared not get up. Xie Wendong touched the girl's hair, looked at her innocent and shy appearance, and laughed. "I wish I had such a sister," I thought. After a while, the little girl finally plucked up the courage to look around, and no one noticed him. The little girl puffed out her mouth and breathed a long breath. The lovely appearance made Xie Wendong laugh again. Xie Wendong feels that being with this girl is really interesting. He can always surprise himself, and his depressed mood is much better. It's just a pity that tomorrow is the time to part. Xie Wendong suddenly remembered something and asked, "You haven't told me your name yet. Where is your home?" The little girl whispered, "My name is Jin Rong in my city. What about you, big brother?" Jin Rong. Xie Wendong recited the name silently in his heart. Jin Rong. Finance? Thinking of this, he smiled and said, "That's a good name. My name is Xie Wendong." The girl didn't say anything, but she engraved the name firmly in her heart. J-City is still busy at night. All kinds of shops on both sides of the commercial street are in business, and the door is hung with colorful neon lights, which makes the whole street extremely bright. It is a pleasure to walk here at the height of summer night. Without the noise of the day, there is a little more serenity of the night. Xie Wendong and Jinrong came out from Kentucky Fried Chicken. Seeing that Xiao Jinrong's clothes were unseemly dirty, they felt their pockets and still had less than 100 yuan. Usually he doesn't buy anything at all, even if he wants to buy it is bought by his brothers. The money on his body is still the food money given by his parents. Xie Wendong wanted to buy some clothes for the girl, but he didn't have enough money. Shaking his head, he thought that he was really miserable as the boss. The younger brother in the meeting had more money than himself, and he really had to bring more money in the future just in case. Xie Wendong led Jinrong to the night market and bargained with the vendors who set up stalls in the night market for a long time before he used his money to buy a set of clothes and a new pair of shoes. It's appropriate to cry in my heart. Jinrong watched Xie Wendong bargain with the owner of the stall, giggling incessantly. Finally, the two came to Xie Wendong's house by car. Xie Wendong explained to her parents that she was tricked to J-City by bad guys, and she was saved by herself while the bad guys accidentally escaped. She had no place to sleep at night, so she had to stay at home for the night and go home tomorrow. Xie Wendong's parents sympathized with Jinrong. Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 26 _ How the Villain is Made. So I said yes. In the end, Jinrong slept in Xie Wendong's room, while he had to sleep on the sofa in the square hall. Early the next morning, Xie Wendong took Jinrong to the station to buy 2 tickets to H-City. Then he went to Xinshin and found a simple and honest brother and asked him to send Jinrong home. Before leaving, Xie Wendong looked at Jinrong with red rims under his eyes and whispered, "Xiao Rong, please don't tell me about Ma Wu when you get home. I'll teach him a lesson for you, okay?" Jinrong nodded and said, "Don't worry, big brother. I won't say it. I'll come back to see you." Xie Wendong was also in a bad mood and waved goodbye to Jinrong. I thought to myself, I don't know when I will see this lovely little girl again. H-City. There is the provincial capital, and it is also the goal of my future development. After sending Jinrong away, Xie Wendong went to the ghost to look for Three Eyes. After the meeting, Xie Wendong asked, "Brother Zhang, how are things going?" Three Eyes said, "The Sickle Gang hasn't been found out yet, but I bought my phone back." With that, the Three Eyes handed Xie Wendong a black Songxia mobile phone and told him the number. Xie Wendong took a look at it, called Ma Wu, told him his cell phone number, and wrote it down. After cutting off the phone, Xie Wendong said to the Three Eyes, "Today, we must find out the situation of the Sickle Gang. We'll do it when Gao Chang comes back." After listening to the Three Eyes, the blood all over the body boiled up and said loudly, "Brother Dong, don't worry. I won't come back today if I don't find out." With that, he took some brothers and walked out. Before noon, Gao Chang and the arrested brothers were all released. After seeing Xie Wendong in Ghost Kue, Gao Chang shouted, "Brother Dong!" Xie Wendong looked back at Gao Chang, his face blue and blue, and knowing that he had been beaten a lot, he said, "How's it going? Have you suffered in it?" Gao Chang felt sad and said in a trembling voice, "My bitterness is nothing. How's Lao Fei doing?" Xie Wendong shook his head and said, "He is not out of danger. Life or death depends on his own efforts." Gao Chang wiped a tear and said in a cruel voice, "Brother Dong, I won't let Sickle help me. When will we get even with them?" Xie Wendong said, "When we get to the bottom of them, we will certainly get back what we owe us." Gao Chang nodded. At noon, the Three Eyes inquired about the news and went back to Gao Chang. When they saw Gao Chang coming back, they hugged him enthusiastically, and neither of them spoke. But brotherly friendship is permeated around the two people. Xie Wendong said, "Go to Xinshin for a meeting in the afternoon. Changzi, go back to school later and get your brothers ready to do it at night." Gao Chang nodded yes after listening. In the afternoon, Xie Wendong and Three Eyes and others in Xinshin analyzed the situation of the Sickle Gang in detail, and soon made an attack plan and began to arrange it. At 10 o'clock in the evening, dark clouds covered the sun, the sky began to drizzle, and there were few pedestrians on the road, but the disco hall of the Eight Gods was bustling. Feng Hai, the boss of the Sickle Gang, sat alone on the sofa, with hundreds of young people standing below. Feng Hai is very happy. He has just received a call saying that when Dong Hui is going to quit the ghost tonight. Now that the ghost is unoccupied, a piece of fat will soon be his own. The thought of being able to watch in the south of J City. Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 26 _ How the Villain is Made. In spite of the two discos, the smile was unwittingly hung on Feng Hai's face. "Listen up, everyone. We'll go to Ghost Gue later. The Wendong Society has gone, and it will be ours from now on. From now on, we Sickle Gang will be the absolute boss in Biennan." Feng Hai stood up and said under his loud opponent. Feng Hai's men cheered and shouted in unison, "We will always follow the eldest brother." Feng Hai laughed proudly after hearing this. He has a reason to be happy. If he can take care of two farms, he will have two sources of money, his strength will rise sharply, and he will not be the boss of the south of the city. Feng Hai exclaimed, "Brothers copy guys, take over the ghost with me now, and I'll buy you a drink in the evening. We'll share all the money we earn in the future." The following 100 people cheered again, and their emotions were brought to a climax by Feng Hai's words. Feng Hai can mix to today's situation not by accident, but he also has a super long point. Feng Hai left some of the people in the Eight Gods, took 50 people with him, and walked mightily to the ghost. There were no pedestrians on the road, and there were very few vehicles. Feng Hai and others were walking in the middle of the road, and cars passed by. When they saw them, they also made way one after another. The Eight Gods are not far away from the ghost. In less than 10 minutes, the big brand of Ghost Gue was in sight. Feng Hai suppressed the excitement in his heart and said loudly to his men, "The ghost is coming, brothers, hurry up." With that, he took the lead in running forward. When I was about to get to the ghost gate, I found a man standing in front of Ghost Road. The man covered his mouth with black cloth from his nostrils, and was a burly man with an 1.5-foot-long machete wrapped around his hand with white cloth. Feng Hai and others froze and walked over to the man. When he got close, Feng Hai laughed and said loudly, "Who am I supposed to be so powerful and dare to stand in my way?" It turns out that it is his defeated general who has 3 eyes. Feng Hai recognized the man as 3 eyes from the scar between his eyebrows. 3 eyes with a cold smile. He said, "Feng Hai, you have to die today." Feng Hayden looked around for a moment, but there was no one there. He had the courage to say, Hey, is it? You want me to die alone?" 3 eyes said coldly, "Feng Hai, my brother received 17 knives. I'm going to make it turn over on you." With that he shouted, "Brothers, kill me." Before the words fell, countless young people with knives were killed from the hutongs on both sides of the street. Without nonsense, they came out to kill Feng Hai and others. 3 eyes read, no one else went straight to Feng Hai. Feng Hai knew the trick and secretly scolded in his heart. "Bitch, how dare you lie to me? It'll make you feel better." 3 eyes did not give him a chance to think about it, so he chopped at Feng Hai with a knife. Feng Hai is not simple, easily dodge, and then quickly step back a few steps, pull out the knife on the waist and 3 eyes together. The strength of 3 eyes is about the same as that of Feng Hai, but the momentum of 3 eyes is much higher than that of the other side. Bent on taking revenge on Li Shuang, he almost chopped at Feng Hai with all his strength. Feng Hai barely resisted for a while, and his hands were numb with shock. In the end, he dared not take the heavy knife with 3 eyes, so he had to dodge. The brothers under Feng Hai did not accept it either. They felt that these people were not here to fight at all, but desperately. Every knife was killed. If they were not called to death, they would be seriously injured. Hundreds of people from both sides fought a big battle between gangs in front of the Ghost Gate, and the knives were shining in the venue, not someone wailing and falling to the ground. The 8-meter-wide street was stained red with blood. At a time when the 2 sides were neck and neck, a dilapidated Great Liberation car came galloping from a distance. The Great Liberation stopped next to the battlefield, and more than 40 young people who came down from above were also young men covered with black cloth. After getting out of the car, they pulled out a knife and killed Feng Hai's men. With the addition of this group, the strength of the other side gradually became disparate. From time to time, some of Feng Hai's men were cut to the ground. Later, among these people, a tall young man stood in the car and scanned the battlefield and saw Feng Hai, who fought fiercely with 3 eyes. His cold eyes suddenly lit up. Mo jumped out of the car and pulled out a knife and gave Feng Hai a sharp knife behind him. Feng Hai and the 3 eyes fought fiercely and did not see the cold knife behind him. The tall teenager slashed Feng Hai's back hard. The big cut, nearly 2 feet long and deep to the bone, made Feng Hai feel so painful that he did not hurry to turn back and jump to one side. "Reach out and touch your back," and the whole back is covered with blood. Feng Hai did not care so much, turned and ran to the 8 gods. 3 see bad. Shout, "Stop him!" Then 2 men ran out of the battlefield and took a knife to block Feng Hai's way. Feng Hai also got red-eyed and rushed straight to the 2. The 2 men stabbed 1 knife respectively, and Feng Hai was tough enough to stop, but on one side of his body, one stabbed him in the shoulder and the other pierced the skin of his lower abdomen. Feng Hai gritted his teeth and swung a knife across their chest. No matter whether the injury was serious or not, the 2 people who were bleeding from their chest were pushed aside and ran away. Volume 1 Juvenile Blood Chapter 27 _ How the Villain is Made. 3 eyes said to the tall boy, "Xiangzi, this is all yours." The teenager smiled and said, "Brother 3 eyes, don't forget to save your breath for me." With that, he waved to the rest of Feng Hai's brothers. The knife flashed, 1 man shouted and fell to the ground, and 1 arm was chopped off by Gao Jiaoxing. 3 eyes took 2 people to chase after the injured Feng Hai. Now Feng Hai no longer has the prestige he had when he first arrived, just like a stray dog running to the 8 gods. There was the last glimmer of hope in his heart, that is, to get to the 8 gods as soon as possible, with dozens of brothers of his own. But the 3rd eye didn't want to give him this hope, so he shook off his long legs and came up from behind. Hearing the gasp behind him, Feng Hai looked back and was so scared that his soul was halfway up to heaven. I saw three eyes grinning grimly, less than 5 meters away from him. When Feng Hai turned around, he didn't pay attention to his feet and was stumbled by a brick. When he got up, three eyes came up behind him and grabbed his clothes one by one. I am the son of a bitch. Let's see where you're going. Three eyes pulled his hand back, but he didn't expect that Feng Hai was very slippery. He took off his clothes and carried on running. The third eye didn't expect the other side to use this trick, and he couldn't stop. Thump! A few steps backwards. Three eyes shouted angrily and chased after him. Feng Hai was frightened by that just now. This time all the strength of breastfeeding was used, and the body's potential was also exerted to the limit. After chasing for a long time, Feng Hai failed to catch up. The sign of the 8 gods ahead has been faintly visible. Three eyes anxious, using all his strength to sprint forward. Feng Hai is also at the end of his strength, and the distance between the two is getting smaller and smaller. When Feng Hai finally ran to the door of the 8 gods, the three eyes also caught up, carried all his strength, chopped at Feng Hai, and hit the other side with a whistling sound. Knowing that he could not avoid it, Feng Hai shouted and picked up the blow 3 times with a knife. The knife collided with the knife and made a loud noise. Three eyes, this powerful knife, unexpectedly divided Feng Hai's knife into 2, and the strong impulse crashed him directly into the 8 gods. Feng Hai was surprised at first, then delighted. After all, he finally got into the 8 gods. Lying on the ground, Feng Hai did not have the strength to get up and shouted, "Brothers, kill the bastards outside." 2 people passed by and pulled Feng Hai up. The latter, ignoring their kindness, pushed them and said, "Grass, didn't you hear what I said? Go and kill that kid out there. Do you think they'll listen to you?" A cold voice came from the depths of the disco hall. Feng Hai was surprised and thought that the people in the club did not dare to speak to themselves like this. Looking up, a teenager sat on the sofa where he used to sit, wearing a school uniform, and a pair of slender eyes shone on him. He was also surrounded by people. As soon as Feng Haishin got cold, a cold sweat fell from his forehead and asked in a trembling voice, "You? No, no, no. No, no, no. Who are you?" The boy said slowly, "Xie, Wan Dong." After hearing this, Feng Hai buzzed his head. He knew that the boss of the Wandong Society was called Xie Wandong. Since he was here, it seemed that all the people he had left in the 8 gods were over, and his life could not be saved if he fell into his hands. Thinking of this, plop, Feng Hai softened his legs, knelt on the ground, shed tears and said, "Brother Dong, please forgive me this time me.